For years, the world has toyed with the idea of virtual money. Credit cards, debit cards, online payment systems that connect accounts and allow you to do away with actually holding coins and bills. Today's cryptocurrencies make those ideas seem like child's play. In a few years or so, is the world going to embrace the idea of virtual currencies or cashless societies? Or is this one of those things that will eventually go away? With us in the studio to demystify virtual currencies are Miguel Coneta, Chief Community Officer and co-founder of fintech startup Satoshi Citadel Industries, and Melchor Plabasan, Deputy Director of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Good day, gentlemen.
Hi, Salve.
Thank you for coming over. Mel has been a guest for a long time here. Suki. Yeah. And Miguel, this is your first time.
Hopefully more than
the first time after this. I'm very curious about your company. So you're 3 years old and you're essentially a Bitcoin company. What does your company do actually?
I would say we provide blockchain services. So back then when we started, it was just Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So that's why we were associated with Bitcoin.
I see.
We provide financial services, like typical financial service that you would see in a bank or a remittance service or a mobile money wallet. Mm-hmm. But we use blockchain technology under the hood.
Okay. So you're sort of a bank, but not a bank.
Kind of, but not really.
Kind of, but not really. What's the difference?
Because we store cryptocurrencies, mm-hmm. Bitcoin and that kind of thing. So
not a single bank right now does that.
No.
What's the benefit in going with a Bitcoin company like you as opposed to going through a bank if you want to trade cryptocurrencies, etc.?
They're totally different actually because, well, we consider ourselves a fintech company, so we do fintech, which means technology and finance. Mm-hmm. And we can't really compare ourselves to a bank because like even we use banks and to move money around in the system. We're not in that stage yet where
you have branches.
We don't need banks anymore or something like that. So yeah, it's totally different concept for banking and for companies like us.
Now, 3 years ago when you began operating, the central bank did not have any policy yet as per Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But February of this year, the BSP issued a circular. Can you tell us the main points that will make this industry grow because of this circular?
Yeah. We consider the circular issued by the BSP last February 2017 as a pioneering regulation. It's the first in Asia and one of the first in the world. Mm-hmm. So the main objective really of this circular is to balance the interest of harnessing innovation and at the same time managing the attendant risk, because we consider, let's say, given the nature of Bitcoin and other virtual currency, which is cross-border distributed, so the regulation is really focused on the activities related to the exchange of Bitcoin. So we target institutions that facilitate the exchange of virtual currency and to fiat currency or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So if you are an institution that is doing that activity, then you can be likened to a remittance company, mm-hmm. remittance and transfer company. So it's also our way of leveling the regulatory playing field, because essentially they are performing money service business, and money service businesses are required to comply with our AML regulations, technology risk management, consumer protection.
Parang it gives off nga the signal that our BSP is not scared, right? Because can you imagine all over the world, all central banks are scared of, well, there's this fear of what cryptocurrencies can do, right? And also the way that, I don't know if you agree with me, but because of the anonymous nature of holders of Bitcoins, this can be used even for crime, right?
Yeah.
So of course there's that, I guess, that relationship of cryptocurrencies with central banks who have been for the longest time holding currencies all over the world.
Yeah. But there are also a number of central banks right now that are also have already issued their own regulation. We have Japan, China, South Korea,
Okay, so Japan, China, and South Korea.
And of course, US,
Yes.
Australia, and I think Canada will soon be issuing its virtual currency regulation.
Right. And so what was your reaction? I can imagine, because for the past 3 years you've been operating without having to register.
Yeah.
Right? I know that you told me that you approached Central Bank
Yes.
3 years ago and asked what to do if you want to open up this kind of company. What was your reaction when the circular came out?
Ever since we started talking to the BSP from 2014, it was an active dialogue. So we would come back and we would discuss how we could potentially regulate, the industry. So we were actually there, like hands-on, and kind of helping and assisting in the formulation of the regulation. So when it came out,
Very
we really
consultative
knew-
pala si Mel.
Yes, sir. Kasi the BSP is very open and they're very progressive.
Okay.
And we're really happy that they listened to us, and we sat down with them many times over the past 3 years. And when it came out, we already knew what it was going to contain. So we were really happy that it happened finally. And
Oh yeah. What was the
we can
internal
move
debate
forward.
like within the BSP when you were trying to figure out whether you're going to regulate this industry? Is it regulatable? What are the things that we're going to put in the circular so that consumers will be protected? What was the internal debate like?
Just to add, as early as 2014, we already issued an advisory to our banking public that Bitcoin is not a regulated activity, so you have no legal protection, and we identified all the risks associated with the use of virtual currencies.
So enter at your own risk.
Yeah, it's all,
Caveat
yeah.
Yeah.
So between 2014 and 2017, as Miguel mentioned, we've been monitoring the market, and we've also been coordinating with the different players, basically to develop how we will approach this particular financial innovation.
What were the risks that you saw?
Of course, as you mentioned, it can be used for money laundering.
Yes.
So, but if you put controls like AML, KYC, then it can be less attractive to money laundering. There are also security issues.
The entire purpose of some people for using cryptocurrencies is that it cannot be traced to them.
I would argue.
Well, if you are planning to do something wrong, right?
Actually, everybody that has committed a major crime, at least in the last 3 years, the Mt. Gox hack, this FBI agent that stole the Bitcoins, they were all caught. Because eventually, if you have the right data analytics and you can study the blockchain, it's a public ledger. And you can go back through the whole history of all the transactions, and eventually...
So it's traceable.
So far,
Very
yes, it has
traceable.
been
Okay,
proven to
it's-
be, because they caught all these criminals that use Bitcoin.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, then so Mel, let's move. You were saying that you were already issuing this.
There was an advisory
There was an
before.
advisory to all the companies that the central bank regulate.
But it's basically addressed to the banking public that it's at your own risk if
Right.
you want to engage in Bitcoins or other virtual currency. It's under your own. And we identified the different risks,
Okay.
and the value can change rapidly. So all of those. And
So that's one of the risks. So one is that it's very volatile.
Yes.
The exchange can be, it's more volatile than the Forex market, right?
Very volatile.
Okay, so it's volatile. And
there
then
are
what else? What
security
are the other risks?
issues.
What are the security issues?
Again, if you do not, similar to your physical wallet, if you do not protect your virtual wallet, then it can also be subject to
Theft, hacking.
hacking.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So you have to do all the security measures like multi-factor authentication. You have to protect the email that is linked to your wallet, etc. So you have a lot of, you need to do a lot of protection.
Right. What was business like from the time that you opened your company until today that you're trying to apply? You're right. You're in the process of applying for registration with the central bank. I think you said there are 6 applicants now for registration after you issued the circular. Okay. What was business like?
Well, we started out with the idea of putting up a merchant payment processor using Bitcoins. And then
What's the merchant payment
So
process?
if people wanted to accept payments in Bitcoin, we were there to provide that
Okay,
service.
so I'm an entrepreneur and I only want people to pay me in Bitcoin or the other cryptocurrencies.
Or you can add it to your, let's say you have PayPal, you have Visa, and then you add another
MasterCard
payment
again.
option, Bitcoin.
Ah,
So that's what we provided. But we learned soon that very fast that people were not really willing to spend the bitcoins because the value was going up and they
so
were
there's
holding it.
speculation already about
There was
its
already
value.
speculation, of course. So we shifted to remittances because the Philippines is
Yes, one of the top 3.
number 3 in the world and everything. And we decided that we would focus our business on providing remittance services for Filipinos that want to send money home, and they'll use Bitcoin, and it's cheaper than the big remittance companies out there. And that's the one that caught on.
The
And
remittance.
that's the one that really picked up, and we started having partners abroad, and they would do the same thing. They would be our on-ramp. And then it just became bigger and bigger. And I think that's one of the reasons why also as we reported also to the BSP what we were doing, our volume. So they took notice then it was growing. So I think that's one of the
What's the
reasons
size
why.
of your operation now?
We
How many
have
transactions in a day or in a month?
40
Or
plus employees now.
40 plus
We have 2
employees.
offices, one in Davao and one in Manila.
And Davao.
Yeah, we have a development squad there.
Developed a squad, a money
Davao
Bitcoin
Dev
squad.
Squad.
Davao Bitcoin squad.
And also, in terms of transaction volume, it's growing month on month, double digits.
Double-digit growth.
percentage. So.
Okay. So you're both saying, or are you, that the Filipinos are ready for this kind of development? For a currency that they do not hold, a currency that they do not... No, because people, we have a relationship with the peso bill and the dollar bill, diba?
Understood.
Cryptocurrencies are very different. Are we ready for this? And is that good or bad?
Yeah, to give you an idea, back in 2014 or 2015, based on the data that we gathered, I don't know if this is an indication of the readiness of the Filipinos for Bitcoin or other virtual currencies, but based on the data that we gathered, the monthly Bitcoin transactions back then, I think the value is around $2 to $3 million. But it's growing. It's $6 million a month.
A month.
Now, so that's also one of the drivers for us, and a lot of virtual currency exchanges are positioning themselves as a remittance tool, remittance mechanism, cheap remittance mechanism.
Cheap. How much cheaper? We compared?
I would say the average cost of sending money to the Philippines from abroad is about 8%, 8 to 10%. That's according to World Bank statistics.
About 200, I suppose,
Up
the
to
200 to
10,000
500.
pesos.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're sending 10,000 pesos.
Okay.
With Bitcoin, with our service, we can cut that down to 2 or 3%.
And it's fast.
And it's
Is it
also-
faster?
Yeah,
Or is
we
it
can
the same?
deliver within the day, that kind of thing. So
Do they need IDs and
yes,
stuff like
similar
that? Similar
to the
banks.
same process that they would go through. We actually, the customers don't even know they're using Bitcoin. It's happening in the middle.
And I heard that because of the circular, some banks are already starting to toy with the idea of really having more linkages with companies like yours,
Yeah.
or starting their own exchange.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah?
We've been approached by a lot of banks, and they want to learn more. And
Very,
we're happy
very,
to provide
very interesting. But let's
the
bring the
knowledge.
conversation down to ordinary retail people like you and I. What does this mean? Is this better? Is this scary? What does this mean?
Actually, it's like any other financial instrument, monetary instrument, or if we may want to call it investment
Yeah.
instrument. There are risks, but essentially it can be managed.
Okay. Like the remittance. So
Yeah.
the risk is that you can lose the money,
Yeah.
but you can manage the risk, and the costs are lower.
And if you want, let's say, something that is fast, near real time, and convenient, then there's the benefit of using virtual currencies like.
Is it just another option, or will it take over all the other currencies in our world?
I would liken it to the internet.
Okay.
Back in the 90s.
Wow.
So back then, the internet was so new.
Yeah.
People were afraid of it.
Yes.
And people were saying, it's a fad. It's gonna, it's gonna go away. It's like nobody's gonna buy a computer and connect and email someone. It's so
This
expensive.
clunky thing that we don't know how to operate, and it
And
might
now
explode.
everybody has the internet.
Yeah, on their phone.
We don't go online anymore. We live online.
So you're saying it will take over our world? No more peso bills, no more coins and peso bills eventually?
I believe so.
And is this good or bad?
I think that's good. As long as we're working in conjunction with the BSP also, and it's gonna make everything so much more efficient. There's no waste. There's no, there's instant settlement. There's instant.
Is it not possible for everyone all over the world to wake up one day that all their money has been hacked?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Some super criminal has found a way to siphon all the money in the system.
Actually, ma'am, if that happens, they would probably go after Citibank first instead of Bitcoin because there's more money there. If they had a computer that can hack that kind of system, I mean, Bitcoin is still small.
Okay, now tips for our viewers. If people are interested, right now you're a first mover. You have first mover advantage because there are only 6 of you and maybe soon you will be approved.
Yeah.
Okay, so if people are interested in going into fiat currency, they want a cashless society and they want to be first in it, what should they do so that they can make sure that they're secure, that they get the lowest fees, etc.? Let's start with Miguel.
Number one, I always tell people to study and do their own research. So before getting into something, you want to learn everything about it. And then we have services that will allow you to buy Bitcoins if you wanted to, or other cryptocurrencies. Exchange your pesos.
So just like a real currency, you can invest in it and wait for the value to change. And then sell. So
I would
buy
not
and sell,
recommend
right?
that.
Oh, no. Okay.
But I recommend people to use it, to see how it works, and to put a minimal amount that they don't mind if something happens, just in case they lose their wallet or something. But there's so many uses for it. So like if you have a Bitcoin wallet, you can go anywhere in the world, and if they accept Bitcoin, you can use it there. So like in Japan, everywhere it's accepted now.
And how do they determine its value? Is there an exchange rate?
Yes, there's an exchange rate. It's real time. It changes every few seconds.
And in every
on our
country around
website.
the world, it's the same?
It's
different because you have to change it to the local currency.
Just like USD
any currency.
or
Right.
It's actually like economics 101. It's similar to traditional financial. It's supply, demand, utility, scarcity. So all of those factors contribute to determining the value.
Will soon be a savings and investment tool as well. Which you don't like. And you also.
Given that it's quite volatile, so we see it more as we see the potential of virtual currencies basically for payment
For transactions.
and remittance mechanism.
That's good. We call that out. All right. Yes.
And also, since Bitcoin has been the best performing currency, like 8 of the last 9 years in the world, that's why people are tending to buy and just save it like a savings.
You
So
don't want
they're
them to do that.
diversifying. Instead of buying stocks in gold and silver, they take a little bit of their portfolio and they buy Bitcoin. So that's what they're doing.
Fantastic. A lot of work still for you, Mel, and for you, Miguel. And I hope that people, as they start to learn about it, will know how to use it properly. Right? Last words.
Similar to what Miguel mentioned and similar to what you have been teaching, you have to familiarize yourself with any payment, investment product that you want to enter into, and be familiar with the risk so that you're able to manage them.
If you want to learn more about this, if you want to work with reliable people, we're here. We're called SCI, SCI.ph. And
So they can go to your
to our website and they can see what we
information.
offer, and they can even reach out to us. We can chat with them, that kind of thing.
Awesome.
So if
Thank
they
you
have
very
any
much.
questions.
Yes.
And in the future, if they encounter any problem with our virtual currency exchanges in the Philippines,
Yes.
they can always go to BSP for any assistance.
Physically. No. You have, I know that you have a hotline and you have a
Consumer affairs at bsp.gov.ph.
Consumer affairs at bsp. Well, thanks again for coming to the show.